Welcome to a Homegrown Family Podcast, where we grow the produce and the kids. Hey everybody, welcome to a Homegrown Family Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Mettler, and boy do we have a treat, no pun intended, for you today. So, I feel like most families or children growing up have good family friends or relatives that they see quite often, but perhaps a little bit more often than just the regular family, right? They're always present for get-togethers and holidays, and whether it's an actual blood relative or just simply a family friend, they're around more than most. And well, growing up, one of those such people for myself and for my siblings was my Aunt Kathy, and still is my Aunt Kathy. My mother's only sister, and probably best friend, too.
Yes.
But Kathy didn't have any children of her own, so in many ways, she treated us like one of her kids, both the scolding and the treats, so I laughed, because I just thought about a couple times where I might have gotten scolded by Kathy there for a second, but probably trying to inflict some kind of injury on my siblings. So she was basically around for like every birthday party, bringing around birthday cake. She's around for every holiday. And if she wasn't there to celebrate in person, I remember many times where her cookies somehow made it to our house. Whether my mom was working the night before Christmas or something like that to get a couple double time in or something at the nursing home there, and swung by Kathy's on the way home, and maybe Kathy was working too, probably. Made a little exchange, and next thing you know, we have Christmas cookies. It was great. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about cakes and cookies with my Aunt Kathy. So welcome aboard the podcast here today.
Thank you, Joe.
You can kind of recall, or maybe familiarize yourself with your voice from when she helped with an episode with my grandma and I. Kind of help with some of the transition, talking, and things like that. So, she was around for that one, so it's not her first rodeo.
Well, kind of.
She was a little more nervous for this one. Yeah, cakes and cookies is one of the things that my Aunt Kathy poured her heart into for us kids, and that we always, it was a special treat, get together and you saw the cookies on the table, and kind of just want to get a little bit more information about it, and kind of pick your brain a little bit, and let's go ahead and start off with your interest in baking, when it kind of occurred, and is it something that you're just always interested in, or when that kind of started for you?
Growing up, there was 6 kids in the family, and mom and dad, of course, and we always had dessert. I think that's a little bit unusual for most families to have dessert with every meal, Monday through Sunday. So we went through a lot of cookies and pies and cakes and baked goods. So
it's funny that you mentioned that, because I remember when I was a young kiddo, that we always had a dessert on the table. And I think it was like, when it started to be 4 or 5 of us, that mom kind of slowed down a little bit in the desserts because they had disappeared at night, and she didn't want to make one the very next day. So
yeah.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of where my mom may have gotten that habit from.
I think so, probably.
Yeah, that's funny. So Grandma obviously taught you then how to bake cookies and all that stuff. And
Yeah. I mean, she didn't have time to do anything necessarily fancy, but it was always very tasty.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite growing up?
Well, everybody likes chocolate chip cookies, or she had like a chocolate chip raisin cookie. So, yeah. Just basic cookies.
So then, went out of the house on your own and decided you needed to make some cookies for somebody other than yourself, right?
Right.
So you started making cookies or cakes first for family members. And
cakes. And it started out with you and your siblings' birthday cakes. So, and it just started out with, you can buy a pan that is the form of whatever character, and it gives you directions on how to decorate that cake, and that's kind of how it started. Just evolved from there.
Yeah. Many of you didn't partake in the pre-show here. Not that there is one. But Kat and I were sitting here chit-chatting, and she had a little photo album. She was flipping through the pictures of some of the cakes she did, and she goes, "Oh, this is one of the first ones that I did." You can kind of tell how the design of the cake is a little more mushed together, not quite as, she probably didn't get quite the frosting consistency that she's used to now.
Yeah. It's a learning experience. It takes time.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely were inspiring to many people, I myself had bought one of those frosting kits you can buy to have a couple of frosting bags. You throw the frosting in, put a little tip on it. Usually it's like a stainless steel or a metal tip, And I'm like, oh, I'll just do the little basic star one that I kind of see Kathy always do around her cupcakes. And I'm just like trying to squeeze this thing on there, and try to make a nice little heart shape for a girlfriend back then or something. Who knows? But it turned out awful. I think I made it halfway around and started doing the second layer, and I'm like, this is useless. And then my hand started cramping, I'm pretty sure, too, halfway through. I don't know. You must have strong fingers and hands.
I guess so, because that doesn't really bother me. I mean, hands get a little tired, you just rest for literally just a minute, and it's all good again.
Back to it. So I did tell my siblings that we were going to do this podcast, and so they kind of gave me little insights and feedback to different things. And one of the things my sister said too was that, oh yeah, I even tried taking lessons with Kathy one time, and it turned out that that's not where my talent lies. So kind of alluded to how you go about decorating your cookies. What kind of style of cookie do you call that? Or I know it's not like a royal icing where you simply spread it on and it gets all smooth. It's kind of textured cookie, right?
Yeah, the cookie is just a sour cream sugar cookie recipe. So it's a soft cookie. It doesn't get crisp like some sugar cookies. When you break them, they'll actually snap, kind of. It's a soft cookie, and you just cut it out like any other sugar cookie. So the design on top of them, some cookie cutters come with an imprint. So some of them you'd have an outline of what you wanted to color in, basically. And some of them are just plain, and I put my own design on top, like a heart. Valentine's Day, you can do a number of different things.
Yeah, pink, red, multicolored.
Multicolored roses, other drop flower cookies, or other drop flowers, I should say.
So I know your sand cookie kind of has an imprint on it, right? You kind of see where the bag is and where the face kind of is.
Yes.
And the hat.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's an easy one you can...
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's one of the ones that siblings mentioned. That was kind of like, oh yeah, the sand cookies.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's probably because they're just a little more detailed as far as
they are. Yeah. You make a face on the cookie, and I have a little airbrush thing that I can make his cheeks rosy.
I don't know if I caught that before.
Yeah.
I'll pay attention next time.
Another nephew, one of Joe's cousins, for the last 3 years now, I think, he comes over to my house at Christmas, and we decorate Christmas cookies. So that's a new tradition that we've started. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, not all frosting is created equal, right? I know probably part of my problem why my cookie didn't turn out because it just turned into mush, or I bought a store-bought frosting that was the wrong kind, probably, and dyed it a certain color,
Yeah.
What kind of frosting do you use, or do you know your recipe for your frosting right off the top of your head?
It's a buttercream frosting. Yes, I've made it so many times I do have it memorized. It's found in the Wilton is the brand name that I use for most of my decorating supplies, and it's in one of their books, and that's where I found it. And it's like I always make a double batch right away because
you can freeze it and reuse it.
Yes, it'll freeze or keep in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks without freezing it. Let me see. We do 1 cup of butter. 1 cup of Crisco shortening, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Beat that all together, and I add 1 bag of powdered sugar, which is 2-pound bag, and 1/4 cup of milk. So the trick is that don't add too much milk or it'll be too thin. Like if you buy store-bought frosting, that's much thinner, and when you pipe it out, it's going to run. It won't stay nice and firm. So that's my favorite recipe. I do have a couple of other ones that I use, but I'm so used to using that buttercream one, and it smooths out nice for me, where some of the other ones don't smooth out as easily, like a marshmallow cream. And with the first recipe I mentioned, you can add cocoa to it, and that will make you a chocolate buttercream frosting. And that's probably my favorite because of the chocolate.
Oh, yeah. Maybe Mom, you were best friends.
Yeah.
My mom likes chocolate, too. And then, I know sometimes you've done... We're kind of jumping to cakes here a little bit, but we'll get there. But you've done different frostings for cakes versus cookies? Or you use the same frosting for both?
I pretty much use the same for both.
Unless you do like the fondue frosting.
Oh, the fondant frosting, yeah. That's a whole different ballgame. I don't have that one memorized exactly, but it's basically powdered sugar, and water, and some vanilla. And you have to roll it out like you would a pie crust. So first you have to knead it, get this, it'll be in a ball like a pie crust is what it'll look like when you start out. And then you roll it out, and you have to get an even thickness so that you don't have one part of your cake.
I'm making playing with Play-Doh.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe a little harder?
Yeah. And then you lay that over the cake, and then you smooth it out so you don't have any wrinkles or anything like that in it.
And you typically use that just on, like, have a firmer outside cake, potentially? Or
Yeah.
I think you used it on cakes for, like, the upper piece that you want to save for a year because it holds the moisture in better if you put it in the freezer? Or is that not necessarily?
Not necessarily. Actually, fondant frosting does not have much of a flavor. It's not very tasty, to be honest with you. It's used for the looks. And that was kind of a trend, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. And people have kind of gotten away from that now again. Everything goes in its trends.
Yeah. So kind of going back to cookies here real briefly. Our Aunt Kathy would make cookies for like all the holidays. She'd have heart-shaped ones for Valentine's Day, like we kind of mentioned, the Santa Claus, or Christmas tree cookies. She'd have bunnies for Easter and eggs, and pumpkins, ghosts for Halloween. She'd even hand out cookies for Halloween, I remember. But that might have been special just for us kids. I'm not sure.
Yes, it was, because you don't want to hand out home-baked goods because of health issue things,
I think a whole block full of cookies is a lot.
Yeah.
You used to have quite the elaborate Halloween garage, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my husband, Gary, he was big into decorating for Halloween.
Yeah.
He's since passed on, so.
One of my favorite memories of that was when you had that stuffed vampire there for the longest time. And then the one year I'm like, hey, can I be the vampire? I'm like dressed up as one anyway, kind of thing. And I put the mask on and I kind of laid there limp like I was a vampire. And boy, I got some moms that screeched that night.
Yes. Yes, and they remembered it. Yes. She talked about that a few years later yet, how that vampire scared her. Yeah.
That was pretty funny. Kind of going on another story, because I mentioned Easter and it kind of reminded me of, so there were several years in our childhood where this laundry basket full of stuff just showed up. And it was like, wow, we could search for baskets, the day before, we wouldn't find nothing. And the next morning, there'd be this laundry basket full of baskets of goodies that said names on them, eggs and everything, and the whole works. And I'm like, where's this thing come from? Is the Easter Bunny actually real? What's the deal? Because I cannot find the goodies prior to the day of Easter, And it finally clicked one year. I'm like, Mom, how do you get these? She's like, well, I worked yesterday. I'm like, well, yeah, you hide it in the van or what? She's like, no, I bumped into your Aunt Kathy. I'm like, Kathy? She was the one that did the Easter egg basket?
Yeah, that was fun.
I don't know how many years you did that. It's quite a few.
Quite a few, yeah.
Yeah, they had me stumped for a couple years. I couldn't quite figure it out. But so, cookies all around. Then we had the birthday cakes for the kids.
Your family and a lot of the other nieces and nephews, we did graduation cakes for, yeah.
Graduation cakes. I know you just did our youngest newborn. You just did her baptismal cake.
Mm-hmm.
So, baptisms, first communions, graduations,
confirmations,
all the good stuff. I just want to take a minute to talk about some of the featured favorites of the Mettler household for for the cakes that we've had over the past. And so some of this kind of stems from the siblings chat here. Right off the bat, I was like, the goldfish one. The one that had the live fish, And then that was one of Nicholas was like, no, that's the goldfish one. Yeah, that's my favorite too. And it was more than a gift. It was like the gift that kept on giving because the fish lived forever. And I'm like, what? Lucky you. I think mine lasted like 2 weeks. Why don't you go ahead and quickly describe how you go about making the internal fish cake?
Oh, okay.
Pretty simple, but...
Yeah, it is very simple. If I recall correctly, the fish actually came... Again, my husband Gary, he worked in the restaurant business, and they had a party, and the centerpieces of the party was a goldfish in one of those little bowls. And he couldn't see them just flushing them down the toilet. So he rescued 6 or 7 of them to give to the Mettler children. So we kept one back, and we had a birthday coming up soon. So I baked just a regular round cake, probably 10 inches round. And I just cut a circle out in the center of it, remove that piece of cake, and put in a little plastic dish. And just before we served it, we put a little bit of water in that bowl and put the fish in. And we didn't leave him there long enough to flop around and bake dirty water on the cake. So, but for the picture and for the surprised look on the kid's face, it was awesome.
Yeah. Another one of the favorites that I had was like, I think you made a time or two, like the dirt worm cake.
Oh, yeah. Lots of people make that one, I think.
Yeah. I remember that. I was like, oh, gummy worms and Oreo crusts and all the good stuff and whatnot. But the other one that I've kind of enjoyed is like ones... I don't know if you did this right away or it was kind of like later on you developed putting a layer of raspberry filling in between the cakes, or like cupcakes, you insert some raspberry filling, or the Bavarian cream filled ones. And that was one that Liz also highlighted as the raspberry being one of her favorite combos.
Yeah, a lot of people like that because the raspberry has such a nice taste in the vanilla cake. So a lot of people like that one.
Where do you get your raspberry filling?
At the grocery store.
You just buy a raspberry filling and... Nice.
Yep. I don't trust making the filling from scratch because you don't want it too thin. If you don't cook it long enough or whatever, then it's not going to... It'll soak all up into the cake and you won't have that nice...
Yeah, bleed a little bit.
Yeah, nice filling. So, yeah. You divide the cake lengthwise in half. Make a little ridge around the edge. It's called a well. And just put your filling in and put the other piece back on top. Frost it like you normally would.
Huh. It's Fat Tuesday today, and Kathy's over at our house, so we made a little 9-inch diameter cake. I had like a mountain in the middle of mine. And that was the one thing that Michael mentioned once, was that for a while, you'd just come over and you'd have all these tops that you cut off to flatten off the cake that you can use in your different layers and stuff. And so he always remembered there's this period of time for a while. She's like, she must have frozen them and just brought a bunch over and then kept on bringing them over and stuff. But he remembered that was the most moist, delicious cake, and it was just the pieces that left over.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're making a cake for decoration, they do get that little mound in the middle, and that's what you do. You just cut it off, and you can just serve it with cake and ice cream later on. I also made like a trifle, where you put the cake pieces in a bowl and you use a fruit and Cool Whip, and you just keep layering it.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, so I've done that with some of the tops too.
Yeah.
We come from a family of thrifty people, so you don't throw anything away.
Yeah. Thought about a couple others here, like you've done a Barbie cake doll before, you like a basketball hoop or a lion cutout, or a construction site. I think that was a recent one for one of the nieces and nephews. And I remember a dinosaur cake where I got some dinosaur pieces I was able to use on Play-Doh later and stuff. And Michael really liked a Mickey Mouse cutout, that she decorated. Michael's like, yeah, supposedly I did that a couple years in a row. So, but I mentioned the Barbie doll one, and in our sibling chat here, my sister's like, "Hey, tell a story about Finley." So, the Barbie doll. Why don't you go ahead and share that one?
Yeah, I think she was probably 3 at the time, and she wanted a Barbie doll cake. So it's the base of the cake, the dress, is a shell-shaped pan. So, and then you put the torso of Barbie at the top to make the bodice and the head and shoulders of the doll. And the skirt then is the cake. And we were telling her that we're going to take Barbie out of the cake, and she didn't understand the concept of part of it was cake and part of it was a doll, plastic Barbie doll. And then her dad said, "Well, we're going to eat it." And she screamed and she cried. We all wish we'd have had a camera rolling for Funniest Home Video, because she was just so upset and so distraught that we would eat Barbie. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've had some pretty funny experiences with some of these cakes and pretty good amazement on some of the ways Kathy puts these together for us kids. And then you kind of got a little bit more elaborate from just birthdays. You kind of went on to some weddings as those kids have gotten older, started making some wedding cakes for us and cousins and things. Almost every one of my siblings' weddings cakes you probably have made.
I think so. Out of all of the nieces and nephews, there's a few that aren't married yet, but there's a couple that were out of state, like way out of state, and maybe 1 or 2 more local that I didn't make for, but for the majority of them, yeah. It all started when my brother Roger asked me to make a wedding cake for him.
Oh, really?
That's how the wedding cakes got started. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you kind of what got you on the wedding cake trend, and I was going to thank Roger for that one. Yeah, I know my brother David's cake was he made it look like a birch bark tree, because he had like birch bark, or birch, branch columns or whatever that had candles in it, or however he did it. I don't remember exactly, but
it was like a stump, and then how you see they had carved the heart into a tree trunk.
Oh, yeah.
So then we had the heart on the birch design, and with their initials in it. Yeah.
Yeah, he said it looked like it matched the decorations perfectly. So. Some of those get pretty intense. They you have the raspberry filling and stuff that can be mixed in this whole mix too. But then Kathy starts looking at, a bigger, I don't know how many inch round base, and then I'm going to columns separating that layer of cake to the next cake, and then another column, set of columns, and so you got supportive pieces, and it gets pretty elaborate sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it does. I've done some that had stairways connecting cakes, one tier to another. I've had some with the fountains in them, where you have the fountain at the bottom, and then pillars, and then your cake's on top. I had Emily and Brandon, theirs had the separator between the tiers was, I'm going to use the reference as to like a movie reel, where you have the little squares, and they had pictures of them throughout their years of dating in those little.
Oh,
and so that's
those edible pictures.
No.
Oh, they weren't edible ones.
No,
okay.
It was just a form that you used to put that on.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of different styles of things. I mean, do you have I don't know if you wanted to get into the process too much of how to make a multi-layered cake. I mean, what are kind of your supportive components and things that you use to support all that?
You're all pretty much familiar with your pillars, and then there's a plate that you put your cake on, and the cakes themselves are steadied with dowel rods you put into the cake so that the layers don't collapse upon themselves when it gets that heavy.
Yeah, you kind of making it so the only part of the cake look nice. the only part you're going to see. Otherwise, there's always dowels and support pieces.
Well,
And
yeah,
frosting
they're
that could be
only as
missing.
big as your little finger
Oh.
around. They're not big pieces. They're maybe
They're pretty well hidden. And
oh yeah, and then when you serve the cake, you just pull those pieces out as you go, and they're not like the size of a pencil or so.
okay.
So they're not big, depending on how big your cake is around. I mean, so
It's not a whole lot to that, really.
yeah, you just want to make sure everything's level and.
Yeah, I suppose. Speaking of that, though, have you ever had any weird bad cake transportation stories where you slipping with it, sliding off, tier or
Knock on wood, no, because there is no backup.
right? Yeah.
If something happens, there is no cake at the reception.
Yeah. Then you go call Costco up and say, "Hey, you make me one."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping never to find out.
Yeah.
And we're just about to the end of the nieces and nephews' weddings, so I'm going to say that I successfully made them all there. And Gary was a big help in making all these cakes. I didn't do it alone. He helped me with the building of different structures and stuff that I needed, and with transportation. He'd do everything but drive the car. He said, I am not driving. If we get in an accident, it is not going to be my fault. So, yeah, I appreciated him very much for all that.
Yeah, I know. I remember you had to cut out maybe a prefab cake box or something.
Right. Sometimes we customized our own boxes and stuff like that. Yeah.
On the flip side, what are some of the more challenging cakes that you've done?
I think one of the more challenging ones was when I did a fondant covered cake, and then there was a swag or a drape on the cake, kind of, swag curtain, you want to say, goes from one peak to another and then back down and up again. And that was made out of fondant, and it was pleated. And then there was a flower where the fondant went up. And so I think that one was one of my most challenging ones, just because working with the fondant.
That's got some weight to it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty heavy. Or it can be if you don't roll it out thin enough.
Yeah.
But it all worked out.
I took a couple pictures of different cakes that Kathy had in her album, which is by no means representative of all the cakes that she's ever done by any means, but I'll post it on my Instagram feed at a Homegrown Fam. Kind of see some of the stuff she does or has done, and so you gotta get an idea of what we're talking about. You know, you're what do you mean that? You can kind of take a look, and it may not be the exact cake that we talked about per se in this podcast, but you can kind of get an idea of what she's been doing. And I don't think I have any pictures of the cookies, but it's kind of similar, as far as the process.
Yeah. There's the one cake, and I don't know if you were going to use that one as a picture, but it has autumn leaves on the cake, and those it was fondant leaves, and then you dried the fondant in a form so that they would kind of bow out like a leaf would. They're kind of curved a little bit like a leaf would be. And those I used a cookie cutter for. So you combined cookie cutter and cake together in that design.
Nice.
Yeah, that was for family friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I did take a picture of that one, so I'll make sure to post that one for sure. And then if I can find a picture of one of my siblings' wedding cakes, maybe I'll post some of those too. But yeah, especially some of the multi-tiered ones; those are kind of cool. And then let's see, one of your most maybe rewarding cakes that you've done, something that you just oh yeah, I really like how that turned out. Or
oh yeah, that one was also for family. And it was multi-tiered, multi-levels. The base, we had the cake stacked, and then around that, there were other multiple little cakes, and there was flowers in it. It was pretty elaborate. I think you'd almost have to see a picture to appreciate.
Yeah, didn't that one have a base cake, and then the next layer was cupcakes? Thinking of it or no? Yeah, maybe I've seen you do that once where it was like a...
Yeah, I have
basically
done
cupcakes,
a combination of cupcakes and cake.
Yeah, I've kind of seen that combo too. So
Yeah.
oftentimes you'll pair the wedding cake with a sheet cake,
Yes.
So you might have a smaller, pie-sized cake, little top that's 4 by 4 inches, or whatever,
Yeah.
and then a couple, because these Mettler weddings, are not anything small, 200 plus people, 200 probably actually the smallest one's probably like 250. But Nicholas, you might be disappointing in the number of people. No, I'm just kidding. But so yeah, you've had a lot of different experiences and things, and being it's Fat Tuesday, I have to ask the question: have you ever made a king cake?
No, I have not.
All right, so
No.
next Lent or Fat Tuesday, we're gonna have like a little king cake party. Yeah, actually, that brings back some memories too. An ex of mine and I were at this fundraising event or whatever, and we didn't have any money, so we weren't really donating anything. But somebody had extra seats, and then their friends backed out. They're like, "Hey, you want to come? We have 2 seats available." Like, "Oh, sure." It was a fancy tie get together thing, and you basically paid $1 for an opportunity to go get a cupcake, and there were 5 kings or babies in these cupcakes. And if you managed to get one that had a baby in it, there's 5 big prizes that you could choose from. And like there's all like on this big table. I'm having which one looks like it's a little overstuffed or, I don't know. I tried to think about it a little bit, but I ended up picking one. And I actually got the baby in the cake. And then my ex, walked away with like $900 necklace. It was a big fundraising thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Sometimes I get lucky like that, but it just reminded me of that. But and the king cakes, for those of you guys that don't understand that, I'll post a link to like a little bio of what a king cake is and what the meaning behind it is. But I'm kind of actually drawing a little bit of a blank on it at the moment. But it has to do something with like the 3 kings going around to try to find baby Jesus, and it's like a gift of the 3 kings or something like that. But I'll post a little link, and you can click on the link below to find a little bit more about that. But it's kind of like a Christian tradition, prior to Lent. So you have this big festive party, on Fat Tuesday they call it. It's also called, I think, there's another word for it, but I'm trying to blank on that.
Shrove Tuesday?
Shrove Tuesday, and there's also, it starts with C.
Is that right?
I think you have, there's S word, and there's a C word. They can both be called it too, I think. Like, anyways, yeah. If I think about it, maybe I'll post a link as that. Yeah, so you've done cakes for family and friends, and it's kind of been a hobby of yours. It's almost like, for me, it's like the amount of time you put into it, it's almost like a second job. And I know when I talked to my mom, she was in the sibling chat, one of the things that she mentioned was that she remembered a time when both you and her spent the whole day baking. And like she said, maybe at your house one day, and then it was her house the next day, maybe even, or something, or you guys both cooked independently. I can't remember how you guys did it or what she said, but exactly. But at the end of the day, whatever you made, about the money you made from selling it off somewhere, you gave to hurricane relief.
Yes. That was for hurricane relief in Haiti. So what we did is we got together at my house and we baked all kinds of things. And we called it a dessert because we sold it at the nursing home where we both were employed. And we didn't want big cakes because these people were nursing home residents or their families. So we sold it per piece, and people were amazed at how much the two of us baked in one day. I mean, we started early in the morning and probably got done maybe 6 o'clock in the evening or so. And we had tables and tables and tables full of dessert. And every penny went to hurricane relief for Haiti that time. That was very rewarding. Then after that Haiti relief, we did the same thing a couple of more times for the Morrison County food shelf. And then the money all went to that.
Maybe we'll kind of conclude with this here too, is that my mom quoted and said, "Kathy does an amazing job. It's almost too pretty to eat."
Well, thank you.